Hello everyone, welcome to the PinkUn show here at the Coach and Horses on Thorpe Road in Norwich. We are but a stone's throw away from Carrow Road and we're here to bring you the usual Norwich City shenanigans over the next half an hour or so. We always know what it's like to try and fulfill high expectations. I am Michael Bailey, and in this week's show you will hear from Daniel Farkas, Ivo Pinto, and hopefully a few pub punters, as well as our studio guests down the pub, which are of course TV commentator extraordinaire Dan O'Hagan, an Eastern Daily Press columnist, and the man who puts the pun in pundit, Ian Clarke. Have you heard that a few times?
I have had it a few times.
How are we both? You good?
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, good indeed, yeah. Room to go.
Beard's looking lovely, Dan. Well done.
Thank you. Yeah, it's not as good as yours, but it's
I feel out of place. I feel out of place being relatively smooth.
By the end of the show, Clarky, you could be on sizable growth. Don't worry. We will apologise for being slightly late, but we are hopefully going to have no issues from here on in with the feed. We are live on PinkUn.com and on the PinkUn YouTube channel, and we've got loads for you coming up over the next half an hour or so. We want to hear from you too, be it on Cameron Jerome's accuracy, James Madison's hair, or Daniel Farkas' Parker. You can get in touch using the live chat feature on the YouTube live feed. There's a live chat feed there. Get your questions and comments in, and we'll do our best to answer them. It will bring them straight through to this phone. So all being well, we'll get those things put to our guests and myself. Now, once again, we are lucky to be in the presence of the real star of the show, which is, of course, the City supporting cow that appeared in more selfies than Captain Canary, Wesley Moulahan. There he is. This is his moment to shine. Oh, it might not work with the flag. As we bring you our week's headlines. Not a lob of joy. City sunk at bottom club. 3 defeats on the spin. Let the meltdown begin. Again. They'd be madders to miss out. England under-21s finally give Madison the call. James's agent officially delighted. The world's their lobster. Wes Hoolahan and Michael McGovern set for World Cup playoff battles. Tim Closer will just have to keep his fingers crossed. And finally, strike a light. Poor Cam can't buy a goal. Poor Nelson has had more rehab than games. The under-23s aren't ready. Is it time for us to get our boots out of storage? No. We can categorically say no, I imagine. Gentlemen, it has been rather from the euphoria of the derby when we were last on to a pretty desperate few games, couple of weeks, Clark.
Yeah, really good derby win. That sort of epic failure at Arsenal, you know, great performance, really spirited display. I think the derby game was then sort of a bit of a hangover, very tired. Wolves, Dan will agree, I'm sure, completely outplayed. I think Wolves are such a good, well-organised side. And then Bolton was just back to the old bad habits that we've seen so many times.
Yeah, I think the game that concerns me would be Bolton, because they're a team who are having a dreadful season, and you think of all the away games Norwich would play, that's the one that can get some points in. But I was at the Wolves game, as Ian says, and I thought Wolves were outstanding, but Norwich that night didn't lay a glove on them and didn't look like laying a glove. And that's a concern too. At home, there was no fight, there was no pace, there was no energy, and that for me would be a concern.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned no energy, because the Arsenal game was such a triumph, but it seems to have come at such a cost. And I spoke to Daniel Farkas about it at Colney. He said, well, we don't regret it because we had to go for it, and that's what he did in the other games. But still.
Yeah, I mean, I was there at Arsenal. They really did put a shift in, but it can't, can't forever keep saying, oh, we played so well and put so much effort in at Arsenal and we're going to keep playing the price. But, I think it has had an impact, maybe a little bit psychologically as well. But, this break they've now got, they've got to snap out of it and get back on it.
And they've showed they can go on good runs. So I think, take a break now for 2 weeks, come back, recharge, re-energised, and go again. And hopefully the energy will be back, and we have another winning run maybe.
Yeah, I guess if it isn't, that's when we can maybe start getting concerned. Is this just kind of where City are? This sort of run of wins, unbeaten, but before that they were really struggling, and now they're kind of here and there and everywhere. Is this what we are? Can we hope for better still? I
mean, at the beginning of the season I was hoping for around the playoffs. Now I think we're 4 points off the playoffs, so if we'd have won at Bolton we'd have been a point off. So 13th place sounds grim, but and it probably is. But yeah, I think realistically, having seen the accounts last week, we're not going to have loads of money to spend in January. So probably the best hope is to get around the playoffs. So yeah, that's probably where we're at. Is where we're at.
I'd say top 6 is certainly attainable, but the problem is this division, Wolves aside, it's so even. So Norwich are just one of maybe 20 teams at a very similar level, and right now maybe 13th is about where they are. But yeah, it's relatively early days still. How many games we played? 15, 20 games? It's still a long time to go. So there's no need to panic just yet, but maybe one more bad run, and then you can begin to be a bit more concerned.
Brilliant stuff. I think we should now hear from Daniel Farkas and Ivo Pinto, who were speaking to us after the game on Saturday, of course, that defeat at Bolton.
When you are playing as good as you were playing in the first minutes of the game, and then you concede the goal, and we should have stayed together and trying to avoid a second goal, because when in away game, if you concede two goals and you are 2 goals back, it's always harder to come back. With 1-0 you can always come back, even in the last 5 minutes. If you score 1 goal, is a draw, and you can search for the second goal to get the 3 points. But yeah, it just shows us that it doesn't matter how good you are playing, you have always to give your best to defend, to keep your goal safe. If you don't do that, you will be in trouble.
The problem is, in general, I think at the moment that we're not able to be clinical and brutal in our finishing, because it's always important to go and lead. And we had the same issue in the last, let's say 11 or 12 games. So we were just able to score 1 or perhaps 2 times, and in the last away games we were able to have a perfect defending in each and every game. But then there comes a game, there is perhaps a mistake or 2 mistakes of our defending of last row, and you have to accept that the opponent is able to score out of this situation. I think in general our defending behavior is much better than the beginning of the season, but yeah, it's a little bit more to create more chances. We spoke about this today. We create a lot of chances, but it's about using these chances. And if not, then you always need a perfect defending. And if you don't have this perfect defending, and are sloppy in 1 or 2 situations, then you have to accept the loss. Yes.
How much are you missing Alex Teti at the moment? Because it's probably a lazy comparison to suggest that since Alex got injured, you've kind of struggled defensively in the midfield. Do you feel like you've missed him in the last few weeks?
Yeah, everybody knows that Alex is a very, very important player. He gives us balance in the midfield. He gives us muscles in the midfielder. But it's not just Alex. I think all the injured players makes they are good players, and we miss them, of course. But we just can count with the players that are here. So yeah, Look, we were playing very good. We just need to keep our goal safe and try to score more. I think it's easy to say, but I think that's the main point. If you keep your goal safe and you try to score more, I think it's what we need now.
Well, there we go. Some interesting stuff there from Daniel Farkas and Ivo Pinto. Apologies for the slightly delayed start again tonight. I feel like we're in full throttle now, and I know which camera to look at, so we're all fine. That is good news. We mentioned about Norwich looking a bit tired. Got here a great pun I used on Sunday, which I was quite happy about. You'd be happy with this one. The elephant in the room, Clarkey, Alex Teti. We've already had a question in, actually, from Neil Austin. Good evening, Neil. Surprised to find myself saying this, but we really miss Alex Teti. He does also say you're looking very dapper, Clark.
Well, Neil's an old mate of mine, so hello, Neil. Hope you're okay. We were saying sort of before we started, Teti's one of those players that until he's out, you don't realise how good he is and how important he is right in that engine room, in front of the back four, protecting, breaking things up, and actually allowing the more creative players to do what they do. And we have really missed him and need him back. It's
a remarkable run, because Norwich won 1 out of 5 in the first part of the season without Alex Teti, drop only 2 points in then throughout September, and then they're back to 1 win out of 5. It's certainly reeks that Alex Teti is being badly missed.
What he does, he allows the Madisons, the Hoolahans, the Murphys to play and do things in the final third, because they can rely on Teti to be there to break up the opposing attacks, and he's become a really important player. And as you say, when he's not there, Norwich really miss him.
We did what we hoped, was that Harrison Reed and Tom Tribal as a partnership, and I hoped this when I saw them at Brentford away in the Cup, could actually make up for Alex Teti's absence. But why has that not really happened?
I don't know. If I knew that, we'd probably be able to sort it out. But maybe it's the experience, and maybe they haven't just got that ability to do, as Dan said, that real dirty job. Maybe they try and play a bit too much football, whereas Teti's first job is to stop it, break play up, and do his anchor role, rather than trying to do both jobs.
You reckon that?
I think, yeah, Teti is a player who is in that position as good as anyone in this league, certainly. You know, he's played for Norway at the top level for years and years, played in France at a decent level, and at this level, he's certainly a very good player. In Norwich, without him, they lack that midfield muscle, that strength, that anchor man who's going to allow, as I said, the playmakers to make the play.
George Reed has been in touch. He says, what is wrong with Norwich now and Ipswich all the way? So I guess you are an Ipswich fan, George. Nice to see you watching. I think we've got some Ipswich fans in the room, actually, so we might get to hear from them later on. There's a mix, Southampton, Nottingham Forest and Ipswich, so we'll see. But it's worth pointing out at this point, if you ever want to come down and watch the show, we're on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock at the Coach and Horses at the moment, but we're hoping to do a whole tour of Norwich pubs.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Oh, bring it on, yeah.
Norwich pubs, what better way to spend an evening? Right, what else have we got on here? Let me get one more question in, shall we, from Guy Fawkes. Let's get Carlton Morris back. Jerome has had his day. Had his day, Clarke. It's all over.
Well, I've done my column for tomorrow, and I do think, you know, Jerome's had a great career, scored, is it every season for the last 13 years in the first or second division, you know, top or second tier. Got one goal this season, and that stat that Lewis Grabban has scored more goals for Norwich at Carrow Road than Cameron Jerome has this season is just I'm afraid it's a damning stat.
Damning indeed.
Yeah, I think as well, to begin the season, a 46-game season with two strikers, Nelson and Cameron Jerome, that was risky. I think that's come back to bite Norwich somewhat. And yeah, Jerome, he's had a great career, but this season, I don't know what the reason is. He's just not at it at all, is he? And
would it help if Nelson Oliveira is fit? Because I've always felt that Cameron Jerome needs that competition. I mean, I think there was another stat in Melissa Rudd's column that he's only hit the target once in 24 games, which is a mind-blowing statistic.
A shot on target? Wow. I mean, for a striker, that's I don't know.
No, maybe once every 133 minutes or something like that.
But even that's unreal for a main striker at this level, with the career he's had have those stats. It's incredible. So Norwich, I think, in January must address that striker situation and bring in at least one body who can score goals in this division.
We'll come back onto that debate. We'll definitely come back onto that debate. Now, a friend of the show and my colleague, David Freezer, he got together some Norwich City stats at the beginning of the international break. They are on the PinkUn YouTube channel, but what the hell, we thought we'd give them to you now as well. Here you go. some pretty damning stats in that lot. And gents, after Millwall, we knew what it was, wasn't it? It was the defence needed tightening up. Is it that straightforward that it's just about scoring goals now?
Well, obviously Bolton, there's a few more defensive frailties creeping in again. So I think it's just the whole unit really. It's the confidence, it's the sort of momentum that we had and is now gone again. So just need to hope that Barnsley game then get on it quickly and just start building another run.
It's a work in progress, we know that, but I think to have problems at the back, which are now fixed, and now attacking problems, it's like trying to kind of paint the fourth bridge. When one job's done, you have to go back to the start again. So, look, this season's going to be a season. It is a season of seeing Farkas make progress slowly. I think if you make the top 6, great. But there's going to be kind of ups and downs and bumps along the road, so it's going to be a difficult season. And
it's difficult because if they don't go up this year, we know the rebuild they're going to have to do again next summer, and it could be quite costly. Loads of questions coming in on the live chat feed. Keep them coming, and we'll try and go through them all. Canaries TV has been in touch with Jerome's shots hitting Morrison's more than the back of the net. His words, not mine. And Oliveira being so injury prone, should we look at bringing a striker in January, despite the club telling us they don't want one? He goes on, Marley Watkins is a striker option. He's undecided, and the club will say that Marley Watkins and Josh Murphy are options, but they don't really play the way that would get the most out of them up front.
Well, Watkins against Wolves I thought was very poor. He's not a striker. I'm not even sure he's a striker at this level at all. Maybe in wide areas, I don't know, but for me they need another proper centre forward as backup, or even to take the place of Jerome.
We know that they can't afford to buy anyone unless they sell someone, Clarkey. Would you sell someone? Would you sell one of the big guys to get in another striker?
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because the last thing we want to do is for Maddison to go. Yeah. But if we can't score the goals, I think Oliveira is going to be key. Presumably in this period, if he really has got a long-term underlying issue, then the club will need to deal with that and bring someone in, even if they're going to push the boat out and maybe break the strict budget they've got, because if we are going to go up, we've got to speculate to accumulate. I know it's an old cliche, but I am concerned about Oliveira because he just seems to go from one injury to the next.
You need a striker who's going to play 30-40 games a season, and Oliveira, sadly, can't. He plays 5-6 games out of 5-6 games. So I think they have to get one more player in to just give them some backup behind Jerome and behind Oliveira.
The good news is we're seeing a lot of Nelson Oliveira training in Portugal on Instagram. So it looks good. He looks good on Instagram. I'm banking on him coming back, and he'll be fit and everything. He'll be fine.
Well, fingers crossed, because we've seen he's a key player, can score goals from anywhere. I mean, he's a wonderful player. He's a player that gives Norwich what no other player they have can. He's a player who scores goals out of the blue. A great asset who, as I say, makes things happen. And without him, we've seen Norwich have lacked a real kind of spark in the final third.
Right, I think now we are down the pub. Is the perfect time for our regular bar game, Flip the Bird. Now, allow me to bring you up to date. The flying start to our game continued when BBC Radio Norfolk's Richie Hancock shaded an epic battle with our very own David Freezer last week, before Richie revealed he grew up in a pub, which I think was effectively like Debbie McGee winning Strictly Come Dancing. So, Richie's superb 13 tops the pile. Dave got 12. Adam Aitken debuted the game. He won, cheated, and still only got 6. So, Adam, what are you doing? Which means, guests, it is your turn. We've got the beer mats here.
I think we're going for a goal of straw, aren't we, Dan?
I think we probably are.
That would be the best way. For the winner, there will be an exclusive selfie with Wesley Moulahan, and for you also get the chance to down your drink, apparently. For the loser, Scorn, and 4 season tickets at Portman Road. So there we go. So it is time to ruffle some feathers and find out who is more Robert Flick than Flicky Van Volswinkle, and play Flip the Bird. Sting! Well done, Dan. Top directing as he shouts at me. I like that. Now, the premise remains simple. You've got to take a bar mat. You've got a minute to flip and accumulate as many bar mats as possible, gents. I will commentate. You can only use one hand. Are we ready to go? Ready to go. I will commentate. Sean ready with the gimbal. Danny ready with the timer. He's ready. Okay, on the signal. 3, 2, 1, go! Dan got an early start there. False start, but there we go. Clarkey's... come on, there's not much urgency going on here, gents. Here we go. What I've found is a minute is a long time to commentate on nothing happening. Dan's struggling there, just losing his grip. Clarkey, well, he's decided that was all right. I'm not so sure it was, but he carries on. He's on 3. Dan's still on 2, but looking comfortable and composed. Takes one. We are level pegging now. Clarkey just struggling. Well, this is going on looking like it at the moment, Clarkey. This is lowest. Well, yeah, Clarkey takes that one. Dan, yeah, just about. I mean, a bit of two-handed work there. This is close. This is close, but I wouldn't say the quality is very good. It's a bit like Norwich Bolton at the moment. Definitely League One standard.
I bet with coins on the elbow.
Better with Clarkey wants to do coins on the elbow. Can we do that game in future, Sam? Coins on the elbow? Yeah, Sam's happy to do that. Hope you're enjoying this cracking entertainment. It's 10 seconds. Clarkey. Adam, how did you cheat and only get 6? Dan's done another one. Dan got 101, and that's time. That is time. That one doesn't count, I'm afraid, Dan. What have you got there, Clarkey?
I got 5.
And Dan, what have you got?
I got as high as 5. I've got 4 here now.
Oh, so Clarkey. Well, yeah, but Dan did get the last one. It's true. So yeah, 5-all. We'll call it 5-all. Well done.
I would have taken 5 actually.
I mean, I mean, gents, how did you feel that went?
Oh, dreadful.
Are you going to practice now for me?
I'm going to practice. By the next time, they'll all be on.
I'll tell you what great commentary. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. I know you're talking rubbish there. Well done, gents. Top work. 5-all. We'll take the draw, and we'll have extra time when we don't have to watch that again, because the quality of that was there. There we go. But I suppose we better play the sting again, Dan. Play the sting again. There we go. Happy. Dan's pointing at me, so we are back on. There we go. How is Sean looking with the gimbal cam? Because we're going to try and go for a walk. And neither of you won, so you can both take a picture with a selfie with Wesley Moulahan. You can do that. You do that now, if you want. You do that while we go and... there's Sean. I don't think this is going to stretch very far. The lead suddenly seems not very long. So let's see, Sean, if we can get to speak to these guys who are down the pub. Let's go. Bring you in, gents. I've realised the lead doesn't stretch very far. So look. We've got Will off of Capital Canaries, Jack Reeve off of Talk Norwich City and ITV. Which do we say, Jack? Which are we allowed to say?
We can go for both.
Both?
Yeah, we'll
Talk
go for
Norwich
both.
City and ITV Anglia. And Angry Dave Powell.
Who's not angry?
He's not angry. We'll have to come in a little bit because the mic. This is what we do on the PinkUn show now. How are we all doing then? Did anyone go to Bolton, and how did you enjoy it? How much?
Saved my money, if I'm being really honest. I mean, sort of not very optimistic really with a performance moment, sadly, which sounds a bit awful, but yeah, and then also I'm sort of, as I've told you earlier, I'm sort of commuting up and down between Norwich at the moment, so sort of it's got quite a few miles on me already, so I thought I'd give it a miss. Yeah,
it was a good decision, wasn't it, in the end, Jack?
It was indeed. Yeah, I didn't make the trip either, and first 20 minutes we looked like a team that was about to go on and win the league, but Cameron Jerome showed that isn't probably going to happen, and the defence fell to pieces, and like Dave was saying off camera, that system is very tough to kind of improvise when you go behind, and we found that the last couple of games, and that's something we're going to have to work on now.
Yeah, that's been the big issue, hasn't it, Dave? That when Norwich go behind, it seems very difficult for them to get back in the game.
It was Millwall Mark II on Saturday.
Was that bad?
Yeah. Well, it was with the 2 defending errors. The closer should never let that cross come in the first one, and the second one there was about 5-6 Norwich defenders just looking at the ball. So yeah, Millwall Mark II.
Millwall Mark II. So hopefully a Millwall Mark II response afterwards.
Well, it should be, shouldn't it? But like Jack's just said, going 1-0 down in that format ain't going to happen. We ain't got a striker that can get you out the mire.
So, I mean, we're getting a lot of questions about the striker issues. I mean, effectively, Norwich have only been playing with one real striker, haven't they, for the last few weeks?
Yeah, I can kind of understand where Norwich are coming from, because when both Nelson Oliveira and Cameron Jerome are fit, they're 2 players who we're going to be expecting to start in the Championship, and you come into a situation where Daniel Farkas' man management is going to have to be next level if he's going to then introduce a third striker, and he's got a third striker who can play in a 2 in Marley Watkins, and Josh Murphy can do a job as well. So I'm not too fussed in terms of bringing another striker in. It's how that 3 behind.
What? Sorry, Dave?
Mystery illness of Naismith.
Numerous injuries, according to Daniel Farkas.
Numerous injuries. Yeah.
Well, there was Oliveira back to Portugal for toothache.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a...
It's true fact. I found that one out, actually. I was laughing at that on Saturday, and then I heard that apparently it is true statistics say that it can cause issues in every part of your body through your teeth.
Well,
true apparently.
I hope I hope no one's making it up. In terms of Nelson Oliveira, how important is it that he gets back fit between now and January? Because Norwich can't afford to have a player like that who's never fit, can they?
No, I mean, as you're saying, I mean, Jack alluded to it as well. I mean, it puts a lot of pressure on Cameron Jerome and on Marley Watkins. I don't think initially Marley Watkins was brought into the club to be a striker. I remember him in the pre-seasons, he was mainly put out on the wing. And as we've alluded to, I mean, Jerome's not really hit the form running. So to get Nelson back fit again is essential. I mean, if it means that he can't play, twice a week, like Alex Teti supposedly can't do that, then that's fair enough. But if he gets the wins in, then that could give us a foothold to maybe challenge for the promotion.
All right, well, let's just sling it out there. Dave, where are Norwich going to finish the season as things stand?
Same as what I said before, between 8th and 10th.
Will?
I went for playoffs, so 4th or 6th between that.
4th and 6th?
Yeah,
I stand by that. Good work. Jack?
6th. We'll scrape in last day of the season.
Okay, I hope you are right. I hope you're not right, Dave. You can watch Dave and Jack that way around on Talk Norwich City. Will is on Capital Canaries Twitter feed. Thanks, gents, for joining us. Much appreciated. Top stuff. Let's go and sit down. And as I said, where am I looking? Shall I look at you, Sean? As I said, oh, it's very weird. As I said, if you want to come down and join us at the pub, wherever we are, Wednesday evening, well, I don't know where I am now, Wednesday evening, 7 p.m, we'll generally be doing the PinkUn show. Hopefully we're going to be at the Fat Cat and Canary over the coming weeks, but we'll be back down here next week. I think that's the plan. And if any of you have a pub that you think we should do this in, let us know and we'll go and do it down that pub, because we like having a pint down the pub, don't we, gents, basically? Right, where are we? I know, let's have a look, shall we, at some championship figures and stats, because we are into the final international break of the season. So let's catch up with what happened in the championship as it signed off for a fortnight, shall we? First up, the results. Wolves underlined their position with an excellent home win over Fulham, who seem to have a few issues behind the scenes at the moment. Bristol City continued to shine. Adam Reach scored a cracker as Wednesday surprised Villa. Derby slipped up at home, and Ipswich put Alec Neil's Preston to the sword. Sheffield United came from behind to thrash Hull. Leeds lost in London, and Borough scraped the North East bragging rights. So, top of the table, Wolves lead by 2 from Chris Wilder's newly promoted side, while the teams lining up behind look like being the big hitters this season. Ipswich are back to 8th as Leeds lose ground. Sadly, City aren't even in the top half anymore, but they are top of the bottom half, ahead of Preston and still 10 points clear of the drop zone. Hey. I jest. Reading's plight looks a little better, but Hull continue to struggle. Following Bolton's win over City and Simon Grayson's sacking last week, managerless Sunderland now prop up the division. And when the Championship returns in about 10 days' time, City will host a Barnsley side that usually oblige at Carrow Road. Ipswich head to Hull. Good work, Dan. Ipswich head to Hull, while after the 3 p.m. kickoffs on the Saturday, there should be a couple of good games there. There are also midweek games that following weekend when City will head to Nottingham Forest. There we go. Gents, I know we've talked about the Championship a little bit, but is it starting to take shape, do you think, Dan, in terms of the teams that are really starting to rise? We're seeing Derby up there, we're seeing Villa in the top 6, Borough in the top 6 now as well. Yeah,
I think Villa and Borough, we know they've got very strong squads, and I think they were the 2 favourites when they pre-season, and now they're in the top 6, ominous, certainly for teams like Norwich who are trying to play catch-up. But I think 1 and 2 will fall away. I think Cardiff will fall away. I think Bristol City will fall away. Sheffield United as well, I'm not sure they've got the legs for the full season. So I think there are spaces in the top 6 up for grabs. And Norwich, if they get that good run together, we've seen that they can go on runs. So it's not a lost cause yet by any stretch.
I mean, I know all the fallout we had from being up at Sheffield United earlier in the season, but they are reminding me a lot of what Paul Lambert's side were doing here a few years ago.
I mean, 33 points from 16 games, they'll be delighted with that start to the season. And Dan's right, it is about, you're only a third of the way through, there's a long way to go, but the points are in the bag, and if you can keep the momentum going, then you never know what might happen.
I mean, I was going to ask, should we be worried about Norwich's position, but actually, I mean, it's so tight, isn't it, from sort of 6th, certainly 8th, down to the bottom half.
As I say, if you take Wolves away from this season's equation, the rest are very, very similar. So, yeah, Norwich, 4 points off the playoffs now. It's not, by any stretch of the imagination, a lost cause yet. So just get a run together again and, put the last 4 weeks behind them, and Norwich should be okay. But, yeah, there is work to do. I think they've got enough in the squad, and hopefully in January they'll do enough business to kind of save the season.
Yeah, fingers crossed. To go back to some of your live questions, don't forget, get on the live chat feed on YouTube, and we'll post some to the guys. David McKenzie, or the guys, I should say the guys. David McKenzie says, do you think Ben Godfrey could be the replacement for Alex Teti? I mean, he is away on loan with Shrewsbury, and although he'll come back in January, he may well stay out for the rest of the year.
I mean, Shrewsbury are going to be, they're going to really want to keep him on the way they're doing. So I guess it's going to be a question of how much Farkas wants these players back and how willing he is to let them stay at the clubs where they're doing well. But yeah, he looks a great prospect. So why not give him a chance?
Did you see his red card last night? It's quite harsh. He's a bit unfortunate there. But he did get sent off, and he could actually now be facing a 3-match ban, which is never great. I mean, Shrewsbury are top of League One, aren't they? In all intents and purposes, they're not that far behind Norwich, really, are they?
No, and as I say, was it 3 players there on loan from Norwich at the moment, and they've had a great season so far, Shrewsbury. But I think you look at the gulf between the top of League One and the bottom of the Championship. There's not a massive gap, as you say, but if he could come back and play for Norwich and replace Teti, that's a big ask. I think we've said Teti's a player obviously with massive quality at this level. I think Godfrey's probably still a year or 2 away from being able to replace him like for like.
Sounds like Alex Teti is probably 2 weeks after the international break away from coming back, so we'll keep the fingers crossed. What else have we got here? Canaries TV, how much is Angus Gunn worth? And would Norwich be able to get him back on loan next year on a permanent contract? I mean, I can't see that, but if Norwich go up, maybe they could get a loan for him.
I think, and I'm not just saying this with yellow and green glasses on, but I think if there's one club that Angus Gunn would go to, it would be Norwich. So I think he's been terrific. Even though the team hasn't done brilliantly this year, he just looks assured, even at such a young age. So I'd love to keep him.
And what I'd say too, I mean, for a goalkeeper, he's not going to get into Man City's first team, is he? No. So at his age now, what is he? 21. He needs first team football, which he won't get at City. So either he loans out next season to a Premier League club, which is unlikely, or he makes a move elsewhere permanently. And as you say, he would be his kind of spiritual home. He's had a great season so far, and maybe Norwich could push the boat out in the summer and buy him.
But there's a lot of the pictures that Brian's tweeting of him and Angus at the club, and I hear that they're now going to have that picture of the two of them on the wall. So there just seems to be something family-wise that's building even more that you never know. And I'd love him to be here.
We should come out and head the crossbar then.
He's never going to do that. It does slightly irk me that he's not a Norwich player, permanently now, because in all intents and purposes he really should be. But there we go. Neil Austin, are we writing off Naismith? Yes or no?
Naismith's a strange one, isn't he? I mean, by all accounts, he's possibly the best paid player at the club, and it's not even really, even though he's been injured, people aren't really talking about him. We talk about Teti to come back, we talk about Pritchard to come back, but even Naismith to come back, no one's really saying he can make a difference, which says a lot about him.
I wish they could unlock that first half against Liverpool when he was magnificent, but nothing since. No. He's got all the ability, obviously you say he's well paid beyond our belief, but for some reason they can't unlock what's inside him. Whatever reason, I don't know, but should we write him off? It may be a case with this wages to move on in January because it's a burden.
It's remarkable how it's that
someone wanting him, isn't it? Some club's got to come in and pick up that big tab.
Well, David Moyes has just walked into West Ham, so you never know, do you?
I'll drive him down there.
There we go. What else have we got? Andrew Appleton Burwood. Hi guys, I don't see spending big on a striker in January. Best hope is getting Pritchard back firing and then not cashing in, which I guess is the key part of that.
I suppose the one thing about we talk about strikers costing a lot of money, and I completely get that. When you look back at Norwich's great strikers over the years, Ewan, Flecky, Holty, players like that, there must be some really good strikers that are around in the lower leagues. And if you can strike it lucky, pardon the pun, you might just find another Grant Holt that's there, no one's spotted, and who knows?
And when Norwich have spent big, it's not worked. We think of Van Volswinkel, like Naismith. Maybe there is a bargain out there to be found who can be the man to turn the season around.
Or is there a striker in Germany, Dan?
There are many, but whether they can afford them, I don't know. But obviously Farkas knows certainly the second division level very well, so maybe there are strikers over there who could come in. But it's going to be, I think, that striking problem is the one that's going to make or break Norwich's season, and they just need backup.
I think if Sean Raggett was a striker, I mean, there's obviously talk about him coming back. I think if he was a striker, there'd be a lot of excitement, because I think he's a great defender, but will he get back in the side? Will he get in the side now? Possibly not, but he's probably the sort of player we want, from a lower league who could possibly punch the weight and do the job.
See if you play up front, chuck him up there, why not? What's going to happen? We should touch on the international fixtures coming up, because there's no championship football to get stuck into. So here's a quick look at some of the fixtures. As you can tell, it's basically Michael McGovern who's involved with Northern Ireland in their World Cup qualifying playoff. Wes Houlihan, who'll be away with the Republic of Ireland with Denmark. These are both over 2 legs. Winner over the 2 legs qualifies for the World Cup. Very exciting. And then, of course, Angus Gunn and James Maddison are away with England under-21s in Ukraine. We haven't really spoken about James Maddison, but, I mean, remarkable season so far. You can sense what the FA are doing since he's arrived with under-21s. We've got a video of him arriving. We've had his whole background story. Getting a lot of coverage, isn't he, the young man?
He is. I thought against Wolves he was by a long way Norwich's best player. He glides around the field. He's got such a lovely, silky touch and a way about himself on the field. And yeah, he's had a great season. But obviously he's a work in progress himself. And his potential is frightening. It really is.
Frightening is a good word.
Yeah, and you know the way he gets kicked around every game, doesn't he? You know, booted up in the air, but just gets up, gets on with it. He's as exciting a Norwich player as I've seen for a long time.
I haven't even bothered to include the England friendlies because we're not first. They're playing Germany, aren't they, on Friday? And Marley Watkins will be away with Wales. Get the sense that if he could get some game, he hasn't made his debut for Wales before, but if he could get some game time, it would do him a real favour because he kind of needs it.
He does, yeah. I think it's been a difficult move from so far. He's been kind of, no one knows what his best position is. He's been in and out the side here at Norwich, but yeah, maybe he gets his Wales debut and that could be a kind of kickstart for him. But I thought against Wolves he was very poor. He just needs a run of games, I think.
Who's going through then? Who's going to? Are the Irish going to do it? Oh, the Republic or Northern?
For Wes, a great swan song to kind of bow out of the World Cup.
Oh, it'd be amazing if Wes could get in the World Cup. Yeah, play.
Well, of course, it's Aggie Haradi against Martin O'Neill, and that shows my age as a Norwich fan. Aggie's now manager of Denmark, but I think Ireland could, if they can get a draw or even a narrow defeat in Denmark, I think they could do it in the return.
Brilliant stuff. I did just want to ask you a question, so have a think about this. The best and worst Norwich performer of the first third of the season. It's a little question for you. But Dan, you went to Dortmund. Is that the first time you've been to the Westfalenstadion?
It was the Klassiker, Bayern against Dortmund, which was just 80,000 people. Atmosphere was immense. Bayern won the game 3-1 and were magnificent. Dortmund were very poor, but being there, it's one off my career bucket list. So yeah, World Cup final done, and Germany, Bayern Dortmund done. Marvellous.
It's on my list as well. What is the atmosphere like there? How does it differ from, say, a classic English game?
If you think you've got a terrace of 30,000 behind one goal, which is it's like literally a wall of noise, and when they score, it's boom, it hits you, and it was just to be there was incredible. It was a good game as well, which always helps. But oh yeah, one of the great stadiums of the world. If you can go because it's remarkable.
Better make it happen then, Clarkey, haven't we? Best and worst performer of the first third of the season for Norwich?
Best for me is Maddison. Worst, I hate to say Jerome because I really like him, but one goal this season is so poor.
Should we do it the other way round? Worst and best?
Worst and best. My best, certainly, I think I'll go for Angus Gunn. I think he's come in, his first ever taste of first team football in a time struggling side. He's done magnificently. And worst, again, I have to go with Cameron, who we all love the guy. He's a lovely fella, but a striker's job is to score goals, and one goal so far this season is not good enough.
Hopefully, he'll be the one who kickstarts come November.
We want him to. I'd be so delighted to be proved wrong over him.
Right, let's get some final tranche of your questions, shall we, on the live chat tonight. Let's have a look. Connor Southwell, or Southwell, would it be Southwell? Connor Southwell. Hello, Connor. What do you think? Could we see Norwich opt to revert to a 3-5-2 in an attempt to overload the midfield and potentially solve the goal-scoring issues? They did a bit of it against Wolves.
Well, that's how Wolves played in the second half. They tried to match Wolves' system. It can work. Whether Norwich have the players who know that system well enough to make it work, I don't know. But yeah, it needs a change, and why not change the formation?
I mean, because Teti has therefore also asked, is it time to change the formation? The defeat at Bolton reminded him of some of those woeful defeats on the road under Alec Neil. I mean, it was entirely predictable. It felt watching it.
Well, it was like, when we went behind, it was back to that. That's now going to be it. When the second goal went in, it's sadly game over. Yeah. I mean, I'm all for change, and while you don't want to change, knee-jerk every single game, you have a different formation, and 11 changes or 9 changes. But if it needs a little bit of a freshen up and try something different, then let's do it.
I think we're done, gents. Thank you so much. Thank you, Wesley Houlihan, who calls time. Yeah. Look at that flag. It's your flag, isn't it?
It is my flag.
You better take care of that. Right, that's it from us. Remember, you can catch all the show and our superb Norwich City content on the PinkUn YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/the PinkUn channel. You can check in at the PinkUn Facebook page, which is fb.me/the PinkUn, or of course PinkUn.com, which is the website. A big thank you to all the crew, to Dan, there they are, the crew, well done, to Dan and Ian for joining us. Thank you so much, gentlemen. To everyone here at the Coach and Horses Public House on Thorpe Road, and to you guys watching at home for getting involved and for taking us in and giving us your time. We'll be back here next Wednesday, live again from 7 p.m, once again here at the Coach and Horses. So if you're nearby and you fancy popping in for a pint, then please do so, and we can get you involved in the show. Until then, here's to Daniel Farkas, remembering all that good work he did after Millwall and delivering a similar City improvement over the next fortnight. We'll see you next week. Good night.